and welcome back to my channel. It's Ashleigh here, and if you are new, hey girl, hey. So in this video today, I am going to be redoing this chest drawer that I've had for a very long time. You guys know I've been doing Operation Get all of the furniture out of my garage, and this is the second one. This was a lot of work, so let's go ahead and let me show you this transformation. Okay, so the first thing I did to this, of course, was I started to pull out all of the drawers and just really give this piece a nice, good cleaning. If you guys know, watch me all the time when I do these, cleaning is my #1 thing that I love to do because I think it is an important step. Some people disagree with that, but honestly, it's important for me. So anyways, I am just going to be cleaning this out. There's different brands and stuff that you can use to clean out. You could just use soap and water, TSP, Grease Lightning. I even use like Lysol, especially inside of the drawers if they're really, really nasty and gunky. And then all of the different paint brands and stuff, they have their own cleaners as well. So there is just a plethora of things that you can choose from when you are cleaning your furniture. So I am just cleaning this out. Another good thing about cleaning out your piece of furniture is if you did not inspect your piece before you bought it, and I would say if you are a beginner at this to inspect your piece before you bring it home so you know what you're getting into. But if you just brought it home, this is a good way to kind of see what's broken, what might be missing, and things like that while you're cleaning up along the way. All right, so the next step to this is starting to work on some of the repairs for this. So this piece of veneer on the side here was coming off. Really easy way to fix this, if it's not a lot missing, is just to glue that piece back on. If you have missing pieces, a lot of missing pieces, you can just take the veneer off, put a new one on there, or you can add Bondo, which I'm going to show you guys in a second. But just adding the wood glue is perfectly fine and gluing it right back. So another thing, if you don't have wood clamps or your piece is too long for using wood clamps, you could just take some painter's tape and just kind of use it to hold the veneer in place. Also, if you have like little bitty pieces like this, you can just kind of like peel away at it and kind of sand it down nice and smooth, and then add just a little bit of either putty or Bondo on there to build it back up and fill that part in. So after I did that, the next thing that I did was I started to work on the top. So as you can see, the top here, the finish that was on here is already like cracking and peeling, and you can see it in the tops here. So I tried to get a good angle for you guys, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to sand that nice and smooth because I will be painting the top, and if I did not do this and I painted over it, then it would just not be really good and it wouldn't be nice and smooth. So it is important to just go ahead and remove this finish. So I'm adding this shot in here real quick. So I've already put a little bit of Bondo on this area, and now I'm just going to take my orbital sander and I'm just going to sand and shape up these areas really smooth. But don't worry, in a few minutes I'm going to show you how just adding and using that Bondo is really, really nice to place in areas that are missing, because it's very nice to shape it up and you'll have a nice smooth finish. So the next repairs I did once I worked on the top were the drawers. So there were a lot of missing pieces, and all I had to do here is just glue some of those areas back on, or again, you can just peel them off, but I just find it easier to just glue the pieces that you can, and then go ahead, come in with your Bondo or whatever you like to use. I love to use Bondo. It's just really, really good to use. I love to use it. So you mix up your Bondo. After you mix that Bondo up, you're going to add the Bondo to those particular areas, and that's what I did here. And you're just going to build it up, take it off, and then once everything is dry, you are going to then sand everything off using an orbital sander, or you can just manually do it with a sanding block. So another thing that I also did was I just went ahead and started to sand over all of the drawers, because again, just like that finish on the top, it was kind of cracking, coming off a little bit, not looking too good, and I just needed to clean that up. So I am just literally going and sanding all over these drawers. Another thing that I did is use some sandy glosser to get rid of some of that as well, just to help me out a little bit, because honestly guys, I really don't like to sand. It's just very messy to me. So using a deglosser is nice too. You will get like a haze over your stuff, but that's totally fine, because once you paint over it, you won't even be able to see that at all. And then I just wipe this down with some water, and then I let it dry and I moved on to the next repairs. So moving along to the next set of repairs that I needed to do, and that was the bottom portion here. So I easily could have removed this, but I wanted to save it. So it expands. You can see that it has expanded, and I just need to glue all of that back together, place the veneer back on top, and then we'll be good to go. So I just used my hot glue. I used my hot glue to get that. No, I used my wood glue, glued it, made sure I had glue all over the place, and then I took my clamps and I clamped all of this together, and then I just let this dry. So while that was drying, I wanted to expose some of the wood, so I am just going to be sanding down the legs. I also went all the way up, but then I decided I'm going to show you guys later to paint that because I just didn't really like it. So anyways, I'm just sanding this down. So real quick, I'm just going to give you guys a close-up view of the legs. So I first started off with a lower grit, so that's why it's kind of important to kind of know the different grits, right? So I started with the lower grit. You see it's like has that gritty effect to it, so it's like a 150 I think I used. Then I came back with like a 220 and smoothed it out a little bit more so you can see it's starting to get smooth. And then when you use like that 400 grit, it gets really, really nice and smooth. So anyways, once I was done with that, I started to take off my clamps, and then I started to use my Bondo, and I came in and I filled in those areas in the front that needed to be filled. So while that was drying, here is a better angle of the finish that I'm talking about. You can see like how it's kind of cracky. It really needs to be sanded down. So I just came in, and instead of sanding it, I'm coming in with my sanding glosser, and I'm really just going to take away that top layer. And that's it, because I just really wanted to make sure that that was like nice and smooth and gone down. Now you can go over this again with a little bit of your sandpaper, but I wasn't too worried about it because I knew once I did the little sanding glosser that most of that stuff would be gone. So after I did gloss that area, as you can see to the right there, it is not like glossy anymore. So the deglosser really does work, guys. If you don't want to use it's like sanding all the time and stuff like that, it'll give it a nice matte finish. So anyways, I'm just coming in over here in this area, and I am sanding this down smooth. Now normally I would have used my sheet sander, but that thing broke, so I had to use my orbital sander. And then I also came in with the little small oscillating tool too and sanded it down a little bit more than that. And I also came in with my X-Acto knife and kind of scraped off this side area because I had came in a little bit too much with the Bondo. But I just cleaned this up and nice and clean to get ready for painting. All right, so after that, I just went ahead and started to sand down the piece to get it prepped for painting. So I just sanded the sides because everything else I had already sanded. So once I was done with that, I started to add on the shellac to this piece. So I'm using the spray shellac clear first. I always just do double. You don't have to, but I'm just gonna tell you right now, like if you're working on a piece and it just has like a dark red hue to it, it's red. If it has wood knots, anything, even if it's like just a dark rich color stain or anything like that, go ahead, save yourself the time and stress and just seal it with shellac. You can use this clear shellac, or you can just go ahead and use the Zinsser 123, the primer. Make sure it says shellac on there to do that. So as you saw, I sprayed this stuff on. So I sprayed it on all of the drawers, and then I also sprayed it on the sides and the bottom. I let that dry, which doesn't take long to dry at all. And then I came in and I am going to be rolling the shellac base primer on top. This is my best method. I love to use it because honestly it just goes on so smooth. I've done the spray does work. Sometimes though it comes out goopy for some strange reason in like certain areas, and it really sucks because you have to sand it down and stuff. So I just find that rolling it on with a roller brush is the way to go. So real quick, I'm just going to add this shot in here. So as you can see, there's tanning already going on, and this is after the first coat. So that is why it's important to go ahead and use that shellac base primer. Okay, so now I'm going to start to mix my paint and paint this piece. So I'm using a paint transformer by BB Frosh. I'll have that link down below. I like to use it. I am using some Bear paint. I cannot 100% remember the color right now, but I will have it linked down below because it is such a beautiful color. But once I got that nice and mixed together, I am now going to hand paint this on. So you can definitely spray this on. I could use my Graco, but I just wanted to paint. Sometimes I just like to paint stuff on. So I am using one of my zebra brushes. I love to use the zebra brushes, and I'm going to be painting the sides, the tops, and all of the drawers this bluish green color. Okay, so after the paint had dried, I used this texture paste and I placed it on top of this stencil that I had, which I thought I liked the look of this, but then I decided I didn't. So I literally sanded everything down to start over, and I used this stencil that I used in my last furniture makeover that I did, which I'll have a link below because that one was super cute. But I used this and that texture paste, and I started to add the paste on top of it, creating a raised stencil look. And then once that dried, I just came in and I sanded it a little bit with my 220, kind of just cleaning up any areas. And then I took that same paint and I painted over this. So when I did this, I had like a lot of people, I did like a reel on my Instagram, and people thought I used like the raised wallpaper, and I was like, no, it's like stencil. So if you're one of those people and you're curious, this is how this is done. A lot of people do it. It's super easy and it's so nice when you put it on furniture. So after that was done, I had a lot of different design aspects of this that I changed. So this is another one of them. So like I said, I came in here and I just painted this because overall it just wasn't working for me, especially after I put that textured stencil, the raised stencil look on the front of the drawers. It just wasn't working. So I decided to paint these areas down here except for the bottom, the very bottom. Okay, so after that, I decided to try this edge banding. It's literally just wood that you're ironing on, and it really sticks very well. So I just wanted to try this out. I could have just literally filled these in with some putty, but I decided to try something different, and this actually gave it a little bit more of dimension. So I just started to carefully take this edging and tape over those ridges. I can't even think of my words right now, but those areas right there. So I just came and ironed over that, and then I did it on both sides, and I just took some scissors and simply cut, and then I took my X-Acto knife and kind of cleaned it up a little bit more, and that was it. And then after that, I just came back with that same paint color, of course, and I painted over that, because at first I was just going to leave it like that, but it didn't look good. So I just went ahead and I painted it on and let that dry. Okay, so now we're going to get back to some repairs, because I totally forgot to repair the drawers, y'all. So after all of that I did to the drawers, I still had to repair them. So anyways, first of all, if you use painter's tape and you tape up your edges on the side, you don't have to worry about doing this. But sometimes, you know, we have those lazy days, and I had a lazy day, didn't want to do that. So now what I'm doing here is just simply sanding the drawer sides to remove the paint and all that stuff. So after I did that, the next thing I did was I started to repair these drawers. So these drawers ended up being a little bit more busted than I thought they were. So I'm just going to be using, of course, my wood glue, my clamps, and I'm going to be gluing everything together. So another amazing thing to use are these blunt tip syringes, and they're very nice to use to get into those hard to reach areas that need to be glued. So I did that for some of the dovetails and this little broken piece right here to make sure I glued all of it together and it'd be nice and tight and glued and perfect. So once I did that, I came in again with my wood clamp, and I clamped everything together. So having really long ones are really nice to have, and also medium-sized ones, because you'll never know what you'll need them for. So I just clamped everything together and I let that dry, and I moved on. And I moved on to working on this droopy drawer. So as you can see here, I pushed this drawer in and it is like drooping down on the right hand side. So I had to pull this out to figure out what was wrong, because it needed to be up. And it was this. It was missing a piece of the drawer side. So what I did was I just took some trim and I'm just going to add it into that area, making sure that it fit nicely. And this was like the perfect size. I was like, oh my gosh. So I cut off the areas that I did not need, and then I'm just going to come back and bring this in. So the trim pieces that I had, they fit perfectly, and it was so amazing. So I'm putting these two pieces together, and I'm just going to add them in that area, creating my own little dovetail. And I'm going to glue this with my wood glue, and I just put them together, used some of my painter's tape to make sure it held the shape that it needed to. And then I came in, once I did that, with my nail gun, and I nailed one side of it so that it'd be connected, and then I glued the rest of it. And then I took my wood clamp and I made sure that I tightened this really tight, and then I just let this dry. So after everything was nice and dry, I just removed that piece, making sure it was nice and secured on there. And then I took another trim piece and I popped that into the bottom and glued that together, and voila! The drawer was fixed, and it looks like it was never freaking broken. So after that, I decided to take some decoupage paper and decoupage the top of this, just so that I can hide that little piece that I fixed and just add a little bit more character to this. So I'm just literally decoupaging like normal, putting the glue on, the water, adding the paper on top, smoothing it out, making sure it is no bubbles, and then I let that dry. After I let that dry, I came in with some 220 grit, and I started to just sand away the areas that I didn't need. And once it's nice and dry, it's just so easy to take off the excess areas that you don't need. So the next thing I started to do for the rest of the drawers is use this Restore finish. It's just a neutral finish, and I started to rub that onto the sides of the drawers and also the insides. Moving along to the next step, it was time to sand everything. So I'm coming in with my 400 grit, very fine, to very smooth things out. So I did this to the tops and the sides. Once I got that down, I just removed all of the little paint dusties that you see with a microfiber cloth, and then I came in with this buffer, which is amazing. You guys have to get one if you never used it before. With buffing out and adding wax to your pieces, it is an absolute game changer, and I am so happy that I use this because it like shine this thing so good and it's so easy to use. So I'm just using my Dixie Belle spray wax, spraying that on. I did spray it on, duh. And then I just came in with this, and I am going to be just swirling this around. It's electric and it works very well. They do also have cordless, which I'm going to get a cordless one because I don't know why I got this corded one. But I just went and I added my wax that way. Once it was nice and dry, I came back again and buffed it out even more. So moving on, I started to clean my hardware. So I'm leaving this in here to show you guys how I cleaned the hardware. So I'm using Barkeeper's Friends, very good to clean hardware with, but if yours is like plated and it's not the actual like brass or something like that, you want to be real careful because you can actually get rid of the coating. So this is what it looked like after I was finished. So it was nice and shiny, looked really good, but I felt like it was too shiny for my piece. So what I did was I came in with this hammered brownish color, which was amazing, and I knew it was going to look so good. And I sprayed this over all of the pieces, and I had to do several coats to get the actual nice like metal like look, but it worked perfect. Also did spray my spray my nails, my hammer nails. I sprayed my nails with this too, just so I have a nice cohesive look. It really doesn't matter because you're not going to see them, but it's nice to do. And then I just added that hardware back on to my piece, and that was it. And here we are at the end of this video, finally finished. I absolutely love how this piece turned out. It's super cute. Love the color, first of all, and I also love the texture that was added on here and the contrast between the hardware and the raw wood of the legs. So this piece, thank goodness, is already sold, so it will be out of the door, and I'm super excited about that. I love the contrast here too with the not with the wallpaper, but with the decoupage paper at the very top, and then just the raw wood look from the drawers and the legs as well. So I'm really happy with how this turned out. I honestly wanted to actually keep this piece, but I don't need it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope you guys learned a little bit of something from me today. If you did, and if you like this piece, make sure you give this video a big thumbs up. If you aren't subscribed to my channel, make sure you click on that subscribe button and you hit that notification bell so that you will always be up to date with my latest tutorials. And thanks for sticking with me throughout this whole video, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye!